Hi, everybody. I am Alex Sequoy, and welcome to the Cleveland State University Monte College of Business Best in Biz webinar series. And I'm so excited today. Our topic today is going to be about Marketing Cleveland, and we have an absolutely amazing team from our own Destination Cleveland here in the room. And I'm going to introduce everybody one at a time. And first, I would like to welcome our students, our faculty, our administration, everyone in the Cleveland community, and also folks that are joining us from all over the country today. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here. And I am Alex Sequoy. I will be your host and your moderator. So today we've got three outstanding individuals. And as I shared with one of my colleagues earlier, it is definitely a proud mama moment. I met all of these folks in the classroom, and sometimes as faculty, you just kind of know when somebody has the it factor and someone's star shines really bright. And with each one of these three individuals, I knew that their stars shined very brightly, and here they are. And now they're going to be our teachers in the room, and I'm just thrilled to have all of you here. So thank you so much for being here. And first, I'd like to introduce Jennifer. I'm going to read your bios. So Jennifer, you are currently the Senior Director of Leisure, Local, and Institutional Marketing at Destination Cleveland. Is that correct? Wonderful. And you've had a very, very interesting career. So I was doing some digging. You were account management with Liggett Stash Hour Incorporated. You also grew into a program management role during your 5 years with Key Bank. And then after that, you joined Destination Cleveland nearly a year ago and also have had absolutely exponential growth within the organization. And you also do a ton of volunteer and community work. And that does not surprise me because you always just had this very kind and upbeat disposition. So the fact that you give back, I would say, is very in tune with your brand of who you are as a person. So welcome, and we are so happy to have you here today. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And next we have Corey. And Corey, you are the Human Resources Manager now at Destination Cleveland.
Correct.
And you earned your bachelor's here at Cleveland State University. And I thought it was interesting. If I got the dates correct, you interned with them while you were still here. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
That is wonderful. And you have really built a nice, steady career. So the jobs that you had were you were an intern there, a coordinator, a specialist, and now you're the manager. And I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you have a personal statement, and I'm only taking a snippet of that personal statement because it really resonated, and I love it so much. And you have, these are your own words: by working in conjunction with other team members, I can ensure deadlines are met, policies are implemented, and goals are reached. And I love that. And one thing that I remember about you is you don't like to be slowed down. You're not individualized. So either people need to help you, and you're going to help other people reach the goal, or people just need to kind of get out of the way. Right. So I remember that about you. So welcome. We are so happy that you are here. And Marie, I took your profile more from Destination Cleveland, but I want to share some of the accomplishments you have had. And we've also kept in touch over the past decade, which has been really great. So you've been part of the marketing team Destination Cleveland since 2012.
That's
and
correct.
you earned your bachelor's degree at Kent State, your MBA here, and you joined them over a decade ago, and you are currently their chief marketing officer, which is, I'm assuming, like the highest position you can have within the organization. And you're responsible for the organization's integrated marketing efforts, including development and management of the Cleveland brand, digital marketing, web development, and major event campaigns. And I just want to, there's a couple of highlights here. And I think a lot of people in the city will be very surprised that you are the person responsible for one of the most popular photographs in the city. So not only did you create the hashtag "This is Cle," but also all those Cleveland script signs all over the city, like Edgewater Park. How many signs are there now?
I think there's 5. Jen, correct me if I'm wrong.
There are 6,
but
Six.
close.
There are 6.
5 or
No,
6.
my
Go
son
find that
loves
6th
those.
one.
Yeah, every time we go to Edgewater, my son has to like climb it. He's like, Mom, take a picture, Mom, take a picture, Mom, take a picture. And they're all strategically placed. And what a brilliant idea. What an absolutely brilliant idea. You were also part of the group that brought ABC's The Bachelor to Cleveland, which was huge, instrumental in local marketing efforts for the 2021 NFL draft, the 2022 NBA All-Star game. And in 2021, you were named a Distinguished Sales and Marketing Award recipient by SME Cleveland. And I know that for all of us here at Cleveland State, we're super, super proud of you. So, and we continue to be proud of all 3 of you. So welcome. We're so glad you're here. And there's 2 names that I just kind of want to drop before I get into the questions, which is the president of Destination Cleveland is none other than Dan Gilbert.
David Gilbert.
David Gilbert. And David Gilbert has done a lot of huge things in this town. And the fact that he is at the helm of the leadership team at your organization just says just how much of a giant brand this is and how important it is to our community. And the other fun fact is I was looking at your board of directors. I always tell my students, always look at the board of directors. And our own Cleveland State University president, Dr. Laura Bloomberg, she's on the board of the organization. So in so many ways, this is such a homecoming. So welcome home. Welcome home to all of you. Okay, so I'm going to start this question. And I don't know, Jennifer or Marie, who wants to answer it first, but while many folks have heard of Destination Cleveland, please share with our audience, what is your organization truly all about and what are its roots?
Sure, I can take that, Jen, and then you and Corey can piggyback off of it. So Destination Cleveland is the Visitor and Conventions Bureau for Cuyahoga County. So we are responsible for stimulating economic impact through leisure and business travel. So a lot of people, I think, are surprised to learn that Cleveland has a travel and tourism arm, but that's really what we're responsible for every single day. So to kind of dumb it down a little bit for the audience and not talk our internal speak, we're really about getting visitors from outside of the region to generate new money and generate new direct spending into the region in order to help us grow. So we are funded by the Cuyahoga County hotel bed tax. So if you ever stay in a hotel or Airbnb, there is a small tax on there, and that's about 90% of how we are funded. So it's really important for us that we are staying on top of the travel and tourism trends, and that we're really thinking about not only local residents, but also business travelers and leisure travelers, as that's our primary audience.
Thank you so much. And Jennifer, did you want to add?
She covered it great. I have one addition, and just that, while we do focus on the visitors, the locals and residents of Cleveland are so important in relaying that message as well, because we really use them to tell the true, authentic story of Cleveland, and that's really one of the main motivators of getting people here. So when friends and family come and visit, that's why a lot of people come to Cleveland. So if friends and family can speak highly about the city, know where to take people, that's kind of how we mobilize our residents, and they're a very important part of our message and our work.
Wonderful, thank you. And Corey, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
And I'll touch on this a little more later, but it's while my work is not as close to the marketing as Marie and Jen, each one of our staff members plays a huge part of it, whether they're bringing their passions to work or not. And each of you on this call has a part to play here, whether you're advocating family to visit, whether you're a student from out of town. We're trying to connect with each and every one of you.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm also grateful that Jennifer, you focused more on the B2C element of it, while Marie focused more on the B2B element. And I don't know if you guys kind of planned it that way, but it's important for folks to know that Destination Cleveland is targeting organizations and companies as well as individual travelers. And to have both of those models that's not simple. Most organizations usually are like, okay, we're strictly B2B, we're strictly B2C. You're both, you're absolutely both. And maybe Corey, I'll start with this one. What first drew you to apply for a job? And you started as an intern. So for you, this is the core of your career, the baseline. So what is it that drew you to apply there first as an intern, but then post-graduation to continue with Destination Cleveland?
Yeah, great question. So I began my career at Destination Cleveland as a senior at Cleveland State. I attended the Levant College and studied organizational leadership. When I started as an intern 5 years ago, what really, was attracted about the position was the mission and vision of the organization, and that was really why that's what attracted me to Livingston College in the first place, was having a purpose, doing something bigger than myself, and the thought of making a positive impact on my hometown was highly appealing.
That's great. Jennifer.
Actually, it was what drew me to apply was stemmed from a project we actually did in your class, Alex. And I've been actually with the organization for about 10 years. I've been in a new role more recently at the organization, but we were working on projects in Cleveland, and we had to find people that were for the project, people that were against the project, and ours at the time was the casino. And so through that met groups throughout downtown. I'm getting both sides of the story, and really decided that it was time to focus my career on something I was very passionate about. I was at Key at the time, and I always say checking accounts and savings accounts and money, it's very important, but I was kind of done with marketing that and wanted to start marketing things like Corey was saying, some things I was truly passionate about. And I've been a lifelong Clevelander. I went to John Carroll for undergrad. So I've been here the whole time and just wanted to kind of move the story forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Marie.
My answer is also similar to Corey and Jen's. I started off in advertising as well, and also worked at Key Bank, and also worked at another financial institution. And just over that amount of time, I wanted to work on something I felt more passionately about. And I wasn't entirely sure at the time. The organization was called Positively Cleveland. I didn't know exactly what they did. I read about them, I read the job description, but didn't know there was this arm of growth that helps to move our local economy forward. And so it gave me an opportunity to dip my toe into the civic world. I did not think I'd be here as long as I am, but the opportunities have just been flowing. And I think I can speak on behalf of Jen and Corey too, and Corey kind of mentioned it, but to emphasize it, it was finally about working on something that was bigger than yourself, something that you could work on that could truly give back, and every day waking up almost not feeling like it's work. I mean, we know it's work, but we're so passionate about what we do that it just feels better to be contributing to something bigger than yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And Marie, are you also a lifelong Clevelander?
I am a lifelong Clevelander, yes.
So all three of you are. I was actually going to ask that because you do need to have a lot of heart to work and do the job and really be passionate. And one of the things I was thinking about is, if any of you was from another city originally, could you have the heart to campaign for a town that's not your hometown, right? Like if each one of you was offered, let's say, this tremendous job that paid 3 times as much, like marketing Manhattan or Los Angeles, I'm sure the money would be tempting, but would you have the heart, right, to market a city that's not your hometown? So Cleveland's adopted me. I've tried to leave twice. It's never, it's failed each time. So my heart is definitely here. But thank you for giving back to home. Thank you for giving back to home, truly. And this next question is the question that I think is really interesting in terms of, all 4 of us sat in the students' desks and studied about how to market products and how to market services. All 4 of us did. Now, imagine that the 3 of you are all teaching students now at your universities. And a student raises their hand and says, okay, we know how Nike markets a sneaker. We know how Starbucks markets a coffee. We know how H&R Block markets taxes every single year. But how do you market a city? And Marie, I'd like to start with you on that one.
Yeah, so I've worked on a lot of different brands. Jen's worked on a lot of different brands. And everyone has their own unique value proposition, right? Whether it's a product or a service. The very interesting thing about a city is that Destination Cleveland does not own the product. So if you are working for Starbucks, if you're working for H&R Block and some of those brands that you mentioned, you can go over to the program manager that created that service at H&R Block, or the coffee maker or the factory who's helping to taste test the coffee and tell them it's too bitter, it's too sweet. There's control over the product and over that brand. When you're marketing a city, we don't control that. All we can do is influence, enhance, and promote. And even on the promoting side, we are also relying on our consumers, just like other consumer brands are, to help promote that message. So the biggest difference between marketing a city is that we don't control the product, and we have to work with so many community organizations and influencers to help us enhance our product and change our product, but we have no control over it.
I love that. That's beautiful. Jennifer.
I would say yes to all of that. And I would say how you do it too, there are elements that are very similar to how you would market those things. You know, you're still looking at competitors, you're still looking at cities that are, you know, in your competitive set that are like you, that you still want to do better than. You're still doing research, you're still figuring out what your strengths and weaknesses are and threats. And so there's a lot of, I think one of the things too is that we start, while we don't control it, we really had to start looking at the city as a product and start and really getting that in people's minds, because that made the connection a little bit stronger. So all the things that go into the things that Marie just said are still relevant, little nuanced, but still relevant as we do our work.
Great, thank you. Corey, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, this is a comment and a quick story. You know, it's such a pleasure to be able to support, develop, grow our staff, and you know, make them better to produce better work. So like being a part of it indirectly is so rewarding. But there is a direct way for all of our staff and each one of us in this call to be involved. I remember I had just started at Destination Cleveland full time after I graduated, and I was riding my bike around the city, and someone had their phone out. They were looking around. They were clearly not from here, and I was so excited to like, hey, can I help you find anything? Where are you trying to go? What are you looking to do? And I gave all sorts of recommendations. And this gentleman was so stoked, and I was like, wow, I just like marketed the city to this guy. He was already here, but I was able to like point him in the direction. So each one of us has opportunities like that.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So I know that I've mentioned a couple of the big wins that Cleveland has scored. I'd like to know like a couple of things. First of all, over the past decade, what are some of the other really huge, you know, events and organizations that you have brought into Cleveland? And also, what would you define as the C factor? What is it that's so magical? I think when you live here, you kind of, it almost becomes like this emerald city where you just understand what the magic is. But when you're trying to market it to other folks who may not understand truly what Cleveland is about, or may just have heard certain things through the media, what is that magical C factor? And what are some of the organizations and events that you have attracted into the city because of that, and because of your own intelligence and your own passion for this town?
Some of the events that probably aren't quite as flashy as, you know, the NFL draft, NBA All-Star game, MLB All-Star game, is that we are responsible and accountable for really filling the convention center. And so there are conferences and conventions at that convention center every week, several a month. So there are conferences that we attract that are about healthcare, IT, manufacturing, and while they may not be flashy and the general public may not know about them, they do help to bring in visitors to help change that perception. And so I am going to turn it over to Jen to talk about what we have in store for 2024, because these events coming in for 2024, some are flashy and some are just due to the sheer fact that Mother Nature is being kind to us. So Jen, do you want to talk a little bit about the C factor and the events?
I would love to. So 24 is a big year for us and for the city. Marie kind of mentioned it. We are Mother Nature granted us an amazing spot for the solar eclipse next year. So on April 8th, we will be in the center, the path of totality. And so for nearly 4 minutes, we will be in darkness in the middle of the day as the solar eclipse occurs. So that is people, as they hear about it, they're also surprised to hear that it is a big travel and tourism event. People travel for this to go see it. They want to be part of it. That event comes on the heels of the NCAA Women's Final Four. So we will have that the 5th through the 7th. We have a huge convention in town, ASAE, and Maria, I always get the acronym wrong, but it is essentially the kind of the Super Bowl, if you will, of meeting planners. So heavy influencers who are coming here to bring other meetings and conventions here. And then we have the Pan American Masters Games, and that will be occurring in very Olympic-like events. So we will have a lot of international travel as well. And just looking back over the years, I would say that the one thing that while courting all of these events is very different and nuanced. I keep using that word, but it is. They're all different. They all want different things for their attendees. But I think the C factor is just the heart of the people that are going to get it. And I'm not, and because we've heard over and over again, Cleveland just wants it more. And we do. We want them to come here. We want them to see why we love it so much. And you know, the conversation has changed over the years from jokes and things like that about who we are. And people just are now naturally curious and what is there? And we are making headlines over the last 10 years. So the perception has changed. And we hear time and time again, you just wanted it more. And we can tell. And I think that it's true of the people we work with. It's David Gilbert, like, I mean, heart of he has an amazing heart, and you hear it. It's not just to get business, it's because we really want you. So
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, Cleveland really does have heart. Absolutely. And a question I would ask as a follow-up question to that is what are some of the challenges, or what were some of the challenges of competing against other cities, or trying to communicate a clear message to whoever it is that you really want here? What have been some of the challenges, and how have you overcome them?
So one of our greatest challenges, and sometimes still is that we're always the underdog. And so when we are in the final stages of those bids, and we're in the top 3 cities with a Denver, a New York, an LA, a Dallas, people are just shocked, and they're like, "Oh, we got this. It's Cleveland. They're not gonna get this." And then we come in and we blow it away because Cleveland has to work harder. We don't have a choice. We can't mess it up. And so the challenge always is how do we blow them away to show them who we really are? And to Jen's point, that authenticity just comes out. You can't fake heartfelt words. You can't fake authenticity. And so that comes to the forefront. But the challenge always is that we're the underdog. Some of the other challenges we face too, just from a community perspective, is just how we're going to all pull it off, what the availability is our city big enough? So there's a lot that goes into events and how you're bidding on them, but hands down, it's always the perception issue. We've made great strides, but we are still seen as the underdog, especially in some of these bidding situations.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I wrote down your quote. I'm going to quote you. You can't fake authenticity. And that is so true. And I'm sure you've all, even though you're all from here, I'm sure you've all visited a lot of different cities. And there's a lot of different cities that have really powerful things, that attract people. But a lot of cities just aren't real. Like, you meet people and you have no idea what they're really thinking, if what they're saying is what they mean. But yeah, Cleveland is as real as it gets. Like, people here are real. You're going to know immediately how people feel about you in this town, is what I learned very quickly when I moved here. They were very suspect of me. And I remember when I first started a corporate job here, and the woman who was working for me said, "What's a Chicago girl like you doing in a town like this?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness. Well, that was my welcome mat to the city." But yeah, no, I love that. I love that you cannot fake authenticity. And of all the places I've lived, and I've lived all over the world, Cleveland is the most real, authentic place that I have ever lived in. And so I think that is spot on. And let me ask you, and maybe Corey, I'll start with you on this one. Once an organization commits, what are some of the logistics? Walk us through a little bit of the logistics. And I know, Corey, you're kind of more like the behind the scenes person, but I'm sure it impacts you a lot with like resources and getting the right talent into the right seats. So once somebody commits, and like Jennifer, you just mentioned some really beautiful events that are coming up, what are the logistics?
Yeah, so I am, like you said, I may not be directly involved in it, but from what I see from the outside looking at it, it's a little bit of organized chaos. We had a quite the extravagant event last night, and I, as staff, and we have opportunities to get involved and volunteer and help support our team. So it's always awesome to be a part of the chaos. It's very fun, but it's I'll let Jen and Marie speak to it more, but I'm more on the, like you said, the background side. So my primary focus is everything within the employee life cycle, from recruitment to retirement. So this includes things like compensation and benefits, employee relations, staff engagement and culture, policy enforcement, performance evaluations, recruiting and onboarding, just to name a few. But it is special when I'm able to have just a small role in an amazing event.
A very key role, very key role. Okay, Jennifer.
Yeah, I will happen. So every event we have is they're all very different, and even the associations with whom we work to bring them here are very different. So the MLB is very different than the RNC, very different from the NFL. So we are kind of led. Our path is kind of led by that association, what they need, what their kind of plan of the events is, and so forth. But really, what we try to also focus on is preparing the community and letting them know who is coming, how many people are coming, the impact of those people coming. And this from the RNC, really the RNC gave us an opportunity to really explore and think outside the box and getting the community ready for that particular, it was 2016. That was a very interesting year. And so we knew that it was going to be an interesting event. We wanted people to know what the setup was going to be like, what the perimeter was like. And we did kind of a roadshow, if you will. We call it a speakers bureau, and went out and did presentations about what this meant to the city and the plans that we were able to share about how it was going to be executed. So that's really what we use. We do them for the big events, but what we realize is that I want to say smaller events, but maybe like Marie said, some of the meetings and conventions that maybe are a little less sexy to some people, that's still a group of people coming in to visit our city, and our restaurants need to be ready for that. The community needs to be ready. If they're downtown for an event, if you have a wedding in downtown, please know that there is a large conference that might be occurring in the hotel next to you. And also too, especially from I don't like talking about the pandemic, but it did impact our industry so much. And another challenge, I think, for us is just making sure that we get the restaurants and businesses who have suffered because of that pandemic, making sure that they have the right information to staff up, get the orders right, knowing, like, if we can get as specific as saying, hey, NCAA wrestling is here, their break times are this time, and this is when you're going to get foot traffic. That's information that they need, and we have to work really hard to get that to them in the way that they need, that they consume it. So there's an aspect of it that we're really kind of hyping up and ramping up just to make sure everyone can have a good experience on both sides.
Excellent. Thank you. You have to be key communicators.
Yes.
Key communicators. And Marie, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
A lot of what also we've implemented when Jen talks about prep and readiness is we do a lot of committee work. So when we bring these major conventions in, or events, depending on what it is, we do formulate several different committees who are focused on enhancing the visitor experience, marketing communications, sometimes staffing. It just depends on what is the need of that event. Prep and ready, local engagement is another one that usually gets formed. And so there are committees for the solar eclipse to ensure that the community is working together. And that's been where we have found a lot of success. And it's something that David has implemented over the years through his sports commission work. And now we've modeled it at Destination Cleveland.
Fantastic. Thank you. And a question that just popped into my head, just because I'm a little bit calendar obsessed. Do you guys have like this is what I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, or I imagine some giant wall with a giant, like the world's biggest printed calendar laminated with the smallest Sharpies in like 12 different colors coded by category, where you could just stand back and just look at everything all at once. What do you guys have something like, is it something like that, or is it something a little bit more refined?
Sounds like you might want to create that for us. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
That's because as you guys were talking about like the managed chaos, I'm like, the only way I could function in your organization is if I had a giant wall with the world's biggest laminated calendar, color-coded Sharpies by type of event, like sporting, Hollywood, business conventions, and then map it all out. That's the only way I could function. Otherwise, I'd probably resign in a day. So I just want to know how does like the entire organization get anchored as to big picture, at a glance, bird's eye, however you want to, whatever you want to call it, but how do you get everyone anchored in saying, here's what's up?
So we do a good job of keeping track of all the annual events and kind of looking ahead as to what we have to do. Because there's also a lot of pre-promoting of events we have to do. So we
Yeah.
know at least 2 years out what the lift is going to be on the organization. But a little bit before the pandemic, we had instituted a project management system. We finally realized that with all the cross collaboration that all the departments internally need to do, and externally with all the civic organizations and corporate organizations, that we really needed a more structured project management system. And for any of you who are in project management classes or deal with project management, it's an undertaking. It's a lot, and it's a lot to get people to change their behavior and how they work together. And we're still perfecting it, but we have come a very long way in getting our organization, our leaders all aligned before we start something, understanding what the resource implications are, understanding what the budget implications are. We've known that 2024 is going to be a big year, so we're already preparing for what those resources look like, what those budgets look like. And then luckily, because we're a small organization, we can pivot quickly. So if we have to pivot, we can. The thing that does get hard is that if you have a year, 2023 is a hard year because we're trying to get more events in the year for the year is how they say it. And this is really the year that we're struggling because of the pandemic. This is the year where we're feeling it the most. But we could put a bid out there tomorrow for a smaller meeting, then get the meeting in a couple months, and then we're reshifting everything again. So it's also about staying flexible and nimble. When you work for a bigger corporation, it's like moving the Titanic. It's harder to do. We don't have that luxury. We have to pivot and move immediately.
I love that. And I love what you're saying. And today, most organizations, for profit and otherwise, that's what they have to do. They have to be focused but flexible, and being able to pivot quickly. That's a very accurate statement, because when you do work for a huge company, making a pivot is I think of it as this way. If you work for, especially an older, this is how we always done it organization.
Yep.
Whenever you got to make a pivot, it's like some century-old train going on tracks, and then the wheels begin to squeal, and then suddenly kind of has to go around, right? And today you have to be like a bird. It's like you're flying in midair, and if you have to change in midair, then that's what you have to do, and the flock has to follow you in midair. That's the difference today between survival and thriving versus, you're out.
Yep.
So I really appreciate what you're saying right there, Marie, because that is a lesson for going into any organization right now is, the ability to pivot. And in the webinar we just had about banks, I went to business school with those two gentlemen. We talked a lot how they taught us at business school that, markets never rest. Markets never, ever, ever rest. And so you have to move. You've got to just get up and move. And speed to market is really the only sustainable competitive advantage that there is. So obviously everyone has to be wired for that. And, you cannot thrive in an organization like yours or have an organization like yours thrive if people are saying, well, this is how we've always done it.
Right.
No one cares. It's about the now, it's about the present. So I've got a question, and I'll let you guys answer individually, which is, once an event is coming, right? Like, so an event is about to come, and let's say the event is over 3 or 4 days. How personally involved is each of you in that event? Like, because for you guys, it's not just about attracting it, right? Like the pre-marketing, the marketing, then the contract, like once the contract is signed, like you don't let go, like then it becomes further, your baby, and then you're operating in parallel process at different stages of different events at any given time. So how involved are you with each event? And then the question is kind of twofold. Do you have to go, and or do you get to go? Jennifer, do you want to start with that?
Yes, I would. So it depends, events change. So I think for a lot of it, we do get to go, and we love to go too. And it's not just because it's a in some cases like an NFL draft and there's a party, things like that. That's an aspect of it. And it's also probably a moment of celebration of all the work that we've done to get them here. Because I mean, like you said, the contract is signed, but that's when the work just continues, and so now you have to execute and make the destination something that you're proud of to show to these people. And it depends. Some, like the NFL draft, we had activations around the city. That was one that we came out of the pandemic. We were just maybe coming out of the pandemic. We weren't even sure if that was really gonna was even going to happen, but we had to talk about pivoting. We had to make sure that all these people coming to town were going to be safe, and we gave them places to experience the city, the event. So we had to make sure that there was a lot of execution, and that was one. A lot of us were downtown over those 4 days. Not a lot of sleep was happening, but because we had to be ready to change, and it was such a tumultuous time that we just had to be ready to go. But then we did get to experience it, and we got to enjoy it, but then learn for other events that we wanted to bring in the future. So Marie, I don't know if you have anything to add to that too.
I would just say too, and I'd love to hear Corey jump in on this one, because this is where really that organized chaos comes in. So we are looking for volunteers. We are getting attire for those volunteers. We are setting up meals at the office for people, because the office ends up becoming like the headquarters. And so we've got people coming in and out, helping, always on call. We manage a social media command center for all of our events. So we're, real time talking to consumers and visitors about what they might need and guiding them throughout the city. And so it's an all hands on deck, and it takes up a lot of personal time. It takes up weekends. We're staying downtown at hotels. But what I'm so proud of, and I think Corey and Jen would agree with this, is that we really do have a lot of fun. It is exhausting. And by the time the event comes, you don't know if you can even make it through event weekend, but that's what we all talk about. That's what we brag about. That's why we're asked to sit on these webinars, is to talk about these events and our experiences with them. And I really would never take it back for the world. Even the Republican National Convention, while that's politics and it was a convention, it was about Cleveland. And it was the first time Cleveland was on the national stage, not under a sports umbrella. And I can't tell you how much fun we had during RNC week. I never thought that was going to be the case, but we came together, and the team really does have a lot of fun. And there are a lot of people in their jobs that cannot say they have fun at work every day. And I can honestly say that this group does have a lot of fun.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me, Marie. So the larger department I'm a part of is our organizational management department. So that's IT, finance, operations, and HR. So during these events, operations is, safety and security for our staff and guests, volunteers, insurance, making sure marketing and other departments have the budget and the cash to spend. And then HR, I love stepping in. I love ordering meals. I love just Mario, Chipotle, citizen pie, all the good stuff for our staff and feeding them. So yeah, everyone has an opportunity to step in. Everyone can play a role, it's so much fun, even during the chaos, like you said, Marie. It's what we always talk about after the fact.
That's great. Thank you. All right. I do have to actually skip over a couple questions because we're having so much fun. We've got about 12 more minutes of questions. And then if there's any Q&A, we'll address the Q&A before we close out. And, we've got a lot of students graduating. Like, this is the last week of classes. And, just yesterday, my Marketing 464 class, which is a capstone class, they finished their presentations, and some have internships, some have jobs. Is Destination Cleveland currently hiring? And if so, and Corey, maybe you can start with this one. What are the kind of, I don't want to say the word hard skills and soft skills. Obviously, you need to be good at marketing. You need to be a good project manager. We get that. But also, Corey, what is the kind of personality that succeeds working at Destination Cleveland?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And, we're always on the lookout for talent. I'm always interested in meeting people who are passionate about our organization. And like we touched on earlier, you can't fake authenticity. So we're looking for talent who are authentic to their true self, not afraid to take risks in the spirit of collaboration and driving results, inclusive individuals who value, respect, and courage to seek out perspectives, views, backgrounds, and contributions of everyone. And most importantly, like we talked about plenty of times before, have a burning passion for the city of Cleveland. Everything I just touched on there is a value of Destination Cleveland, is a core value of our organization. And that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for people who align to our core values, which you can find on our website. I will say, if you attend one of the amazing events Cleveland State hosts, you'll likely see me and other alumni on our staff representing Destination Cleveland, Cleveland State Alumni Association, Young Alumni Council, or both. I actually hope to see some of you at the grad party today at Mather Mansion. I will be there tonight. I would say to stay up to date on positions, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, check out our careers page to stay up to date on full-time, part-time, and internship opportunities. We just closed our summer internships, but keep an eye out for fall opportunities. Currently, we have 3 positions open: a part-time visitor center role in our visitor center right on East 4th and Euclid, a director of sales position, and a staff accountant. So someone with 1 to 2 years of accounting experience.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm going to just move on to the next question. And I know that Jennifer, you mentioned about some of the things that are next for Destination Cleveland. So I'm going to skip that question as well. And so here's a question, and I'm going to kind of double layer it just a little bit. So the question I was going to ask each of you is, how do you want to see our city 5 years from now? And there's something I'm going to add to it, and I didn't want to write it or type it because I just kind of want your spontaneous, in the moment answers to this. But, you know, outside of like Cleveland achieving another sports, you know, big sports milestone, you know, like the Cavs winning in 2016, if the sky's the limit, what is something that you really would love to see positive happen in our town? So Jennifer, I'll start with you.
I knew you were going to start with me. Gosh, I don't know for me if it's an event. Just that's not where my head is right now. But to me, it's maybe vibe is the word. You know, we have a lot of work. We've done a ton of work. We have a lot of work to do to get our communities, to learn more about our communities and make their work and their people visible and from a diversity perspective and everything, and really tell that story. We've done an amazing job doing it. And I just think in the next 5 years, I would just love to see those stories just everywhere and really seeing, I mean, we have more than 100 ethnicities here in this city. And I just love anything from, I go to a Slovenian festival every year. We have the Little Italy, I'm looking at Marie, you know, we have the feast, we have so many things that happen in this community. And that is the story I want people to live, not just, I want them to know, I want them to feel that, I want them to be able to tell it, and just kind of raise everybody up. And I mean, all of our communities, we're all passionate people. There is not that, all the things that Corey described and all the things that are part of our brand, they apply to all the people here. So let's like work together and raise each other up. That's what I want to see in the next 5 years, more than an event. I would say those are nice too, though.
That's so beautiful. And it's so on brand with who you are. It's so on brand with like everything I know about you to say that, because I know that's coming so from the heart. And it's such a reflection of you and your personality and like everything I know about you. So I love that. Thank you. And Marie, what about you?
I would love for us to eventually be a chosen destination. The way Austin is a chosen destination for a weekend, the way Nashville is a chosen destination. And really the most cliche answer, of course, is the lakefront. Just so much excitement around the lakefront development, the riverfront development. It really is going to change the landscape of how travel and tourism is shaped in Cleveland. And then hopefully providing more accessibility and bringing us together. There are still a lot of silos in Cleveland. There's a lot of inequities in Cleveland, and having these places to congregate and come together are ways to break down those barriers. So that's my wish in 5 years. And I have a whole BHAG I could read to you all, but I'll spare you that. That's the summary.
No, I love that. And you know what? I'm going to play a little true confession. So I moved to Cleveland in 2003, you know, and I grew up in Chicago. I went to business school at University of Rochester, and I went to an event the fall of 2003. And I'll let everybody figure out who the mayor was back then. And back then, that mayor said that she really wants to work on Cleveland's lakefront. That was 20 years ago. I came up to her afterwards. I gave her my business card. I said, I am a freshly minted MBA. I grew up in Chicago. I know what it means to live in a city with a highly utilized lakefront. Let's talk. Never heard back. And here it is 20 years later, and we're still having this conversation. But I think finally there's some action around all of it, which I'm so excited to see, because it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And you know, one of the things I think about in terms of the psychology of Clevelanders is this is a very hardworking town. You are not going to be able to just kind of skate by here. This is a very hardworking town. No matter if you like people or if you don't like people, this is something I learned early on. You can absolutely not like someone, but you cannot ever question their work ethic, right? And so the fact that I know the Metro Parks is doing some incredible stuff, but for us to be able to enjoy nature, get away from technology, take a break from work, and really to utilize that lakefront, I mean, that is just such a gold mine in and of itself. So that's a beautiful thing. And that was my secret story. But if you guys ever want to know about what it means to live in a city with a highly utilized lakefront, I will, you know, for a Starbucks, I will come and talk with you guys and share whatever I know. Corey, what did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and you touched on it. I just want to say Cleveland will forever and always be my home. The pandemic personally made me look internally, both in myself, but also like what was here, what am I missing? I really love to see our city and our region continue to conserve, protect, connect, and give access to all of our natural resources, lake, and riverfront, for everyone and future generations to enjoy. Marie mentioned, it can be tough with some of the silos, but I hope to see the Metro Parks and other local organizations collaborate together to make trail accessibility, connectivity a priority as a means of transportation, connectivity, and just physical and mental well-being. But to summarize, I'd love to see Cleveland become a premier outdoor recreation destination for visitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be. We have the landscape.
Mhm.
We have the entire landscape. Okay, and we'll do like maybe one or two more questions and address some of the audience questions. So you've either graduated from CSU or two classes here. What are some of the skills or lessons that you had here that you apply to your job now?
For me, I was promoted just within the last year to the chief marketing officer role. And I keep thinking back to my grad school days at CSU and how it got me ready for the constant multitasking, figuring out how to use your time, figuring out how to use it better, figuring out how to take breaks because you can't do it and you're not going to study well if you're exhausted. You're not going to write that paper well if you're exhausted. So it really helped me enforce any balance issues I might have had and really how to use my time and where to spend my time. And I still to this day, I'm like, thank God for all that homework at night because it taught me how to multitask and get the work done that I need to get done.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Jennifer.
I think for me, it was the group work. And I think, over as you go through school, maybe folks roll their eyes at group work because, there's going to be the person that takes charge. There's going to be the person that doesn't really do anything, type of thing. But I think that is so important to have that experience and know how to navigate that because it is true in your working environment and the project teams and things like that. And I'm not saying it's internal or external or things like that, but you have to figure out how to work with people and when you need to lead and when you need to kind of let others lead and things and really finding people and assigning work based on people's expertise, really leveraging what they do best and figuring out how it works in the greater scheme of things. So I think that I don't roll my eyes at group work anymore because that is what I do every day and I love it. And I think a key to that is making sure you understand how people can contribute best and leveraging that so you can all work together.
Yep, that's what makes a good manager. That right there is that everybody brings a very different skill set to the table. So don't make everybody do the same thing. What are the complementary skills? And if it's redundant, then don't have two people do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So no, I really appreciate that. I really, really do. And Corey, what would you like to add to that?
I would double down with both Marie and Jen have said, and just add that thinking geographically about where Cleveland State's campus is, right in the heart of downtown Cleveland, that was so valuable. There's so many personal and professional opportunities, close proximity to campus. Don't forget to take advantage of that while you're a student, and even if you're graduating here next week, as an alumni, take advantage of it. There's a lot of resources alumni have access to, so continue to take advantage of that.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you guys one last question, and then any of the Q&A that's coming in from folks with names on it, I will ask those as well. And this is a question, every single webinar, every single interview, when I used to write for a film magazine, I would ask this of all the like film people out there. Anybody who I talk to, my question my last question is, what advice do you give to the next generation? What advice do you wish you had back then, or with the world changing, that you wish people would know, especially given the fact that Gen Z is very, very different. You know, I'm Gen X, most of you are millennials, and then Gen Z is right now who is graduating. Then my son's Gen Alpha. So, you know, it just keeps going. But what one piece of advice would you give to them that would help them be successful professionally and perhaps in life? So Corey, we'll start with you since you're in human resources, right? We'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, if I could give it a tagline, is take risks. Don't be afraid to take risks. Anything short of illegal or immoral, do it. You're going to learn a lot. That advice actually came from our CEO, David Gilbert. Get connected, reach out to people, get outside your comfort zone, meet new people, get engaged in new experiences. I think that both personally and professionally was very valuable for me, and I'd love to see that for future generations. The city of Cleveland has so much to offer, and get out there and find it for yourself.
Beautiful. Take risks. I love that. Thank you so much. Marie.
Some of the best advice I've been given is to really just keep learning and to surround yourself, especially as you grow into bigger leadership roles, surround yourself around people who are smarter than you, people who have diverse thought, people who are different than you. And sometimes that can be hard to do based on what you're up against, but the more complacent you become, the more irrelevant you will become. And you have to surround yourself around diverse thought and youth in order for your own self to continue to grow. As I continue to think about my next career steps too, it's really about how do I keep on the edge of things, especially in marketing. If I'm going to stay in marketing, I need to be on the cutting edge of all these things. I need to surround myself around the right people. So never let ego get in the way and just always show up your best self and willing to learn.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much, Marie. Thank you. And Jennifer.
Yeah, those were great answers. So thanks for that. Hope mine's okay. What I keep thinking is, you know, as you grow and I find what really makes you feel good, and what, you know, Marie talked about, doing your job and finding something that you like, find something you're truly passionate about so it doesn't feel like work. And I would also say too, the world has changed so much since I was in school. And I think at that time it was like, oh, you're going to school for this, so you must be this. And it kind of harkens back to the hard skills and soft skills. I think that you can be anything you want to be. And I think that if you're in a place, if you're in a job that you don't like, it's okay. It's okay to try something different. It's okay to find another path. You know, how many of my friends I worked at the agency with, and now they're realtors, you know, they went from market, you know, and so there are connections there. So don't think just because the job description is a little bit different, you can connect your skills to anything. You just have to tell the right story and one that's authentic to you. So don't think your path can go a lot of different ways. So don't feel that you're just on this one thing and that's what you have to do because you walked into CSU one day and we're like, I want to do marketing. You don't have to do marketing. You can do anything you want if you feel that's not fulfilling to you.
I love that. You can do anything you want. And that goes back to the conversation we had about just 5 or 6 minutes ago, which is, you know, be firm but flexible. You know who you are, be authentic, be real, which is again what you guys have been speaking about. And also just how do you continue to, again, shift and pivot? Like if the market's in a very different place, the entire market, the stock market, the job market, the housing market, everything's in a very different place than it was just 4 years ago. So how are you relevant now? Right? How are you relevant now? I am so grateful. And we do have several questions. I'm not going to address anybody that's marked anonymous because I don't know who they are. But anybody who showed up with a name. So Ann Nelson, she's one of our deans here. She's a giant advocate for students, and she was just recognized for all her dedication. And her question is, how can a Clevelander support your organization?
I'll take that one. Those are my people, Marie, if that's okay with you. So I think the first and foremost, share the Cleveland story, tell people what you love about this city, and get them to come here and take them and show them around. And to do that too, I think you also need to be to explore yourself, but sharing, using the hashtag This Is CLE, that is a huge tool that we have given our residents that help us tell our story. There will be opportunities, especially with the events coming up. There will need volunteers and so forth, and we're actually going to be launching something later this year that will maybe formalize a little bit more of that resident engagement, but so more to come on that. But that is the first and foremost, tell our story and be authentic. And it's not all there. We have a past, and there are things that are not always awesome, but that's okay. That's our fabric. That's part of who we are, and that's also what has propelled us to this place. So first and foremost, use our hashtag and tell a great story, and then also just keep in the know as to what's going on in the city.
Wonderful. Does anybody want to add to that? Because I do have 2 more questions, so I just want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Okay, our next question comes from a student, Lamont. This is a good question because it kind of segues into another one, which is, did Destination Cleveland see an uptick in interest in Cleveland with the Netflix series Little Fires Everywhere set in Shaker Heights?
Great question. I don't know that we saw an uptick from that particular series, but we do see uptick in when we conduct perception research, when we analyze our social media sentiment online, when there are positive stories in the news, positive TV series, positive just perceptions being on the national spotlight, we do tend to see consumer sentiment rise. Sometimes it results in some visitation, but we have a hard time tracking those directly.
Okay, perfect. And I was just going to ask as a follow-up, do you guys work with the Cleveland Film Commission, or are you guys more separate? I'm pretty familiar with the work they do. I just didn't know how much overlap there is.
I think what's confusing about a lot of the civic organizations is we're all very mission driven by what our mission is. And
Gotcha.
So they are here to really help bring films in, but then permit them, get the crews ready. So we help with if they need hotels, if they need recommendations. So we collaborate, but there really is not a lot of overlap.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a question from Daniela. Do you guys also work with other cities like downtown Willoughby and their organized events?
Can take that. Yes, in a lot of cases, what we like to do, what we do is promote really their events. If there are areas that we go into to, like a few years ago, we did an event called Be a Tourist in Your Hometown. And in that instance, we set up kind of activations across East Side, West Side, but had to work with the cities and the neighborhoods to make sure that we could get the permits to set up the tents. We could, work with their businesses to showcase, kind of the food and the culture and the boutiques and things like that. So I think it depends what the event is, and especially too, if we have something coming in, like the RNC, we want to make sure we're working with the suburbs so they know what's happening, especially if they're impacted by folks staying in their hotels. It really just depends where the event is. But more often we are promoting things like a Willoughby would be putting on themselves, and we would love for them to kind of share their events through our website and things. So we're promoting kind of the cross-region view of all that we have to offer.
Beautiful. It just sounds like in general, there's just a lot of collaboration between you and local communities, local organizations, and the organizations that are bringing events here. So you guys are like spider webs of connections and information everywhere. And the last question, there's about 4 of them from one person, but I'm just going to summarize it to one. This is from Blake. Do employers look more for the experience learned from a prior job position or from the schooling and education that they get? And I think that's a very good question, especially in 2023. Corey, you want to do that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say it depends. It's really a combination of both. So we strive to make our job descriptions inclusive. So when we have a great example is our staff accountant position, we're looking for a 4-year degree and 2 years of experience, or combined, I think it's 5 years of experience. So we make it available for people who have the experience, but not necessarily a college degree. If someone's a good fit, they're a good fit. We're not going to put someone into a no pile, so to speak, just because they don't have a college degree. So if you're getting out there and you're getting the experience, we're open to that. A lot of other employers are, but I can only speak about Destination Cleveland. I would say there's a lot of values learned, like a lot of like valuable lessons learned in college that aren't necessarily specific to the course content. I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday that one of the biggest things I learned in undergrad was how to get from to week 1 to week 16 with an A, the path of least resistance. How do you find the path of least resistance, the most efficient way to an A at the end of week 16? And that became clear to me, like, what are the expectations, job description? What does the syllabus say? So there's a lot of values in there, and I even struggled with that when I was going through undergrad. I'm like, what is the value in this? It was very quickly after I graduated, it occurred to me how much I really had learned.
That's great. Thank you so much. I know we've got other questions coming in and everyone's curious about the same question. I'm going to just throw one more question and then we're going to have to go because 2 folks are asking, is Destination Cleveland doing anything to promote Asiatown? And I know that that's pretty specific. And I know that Jennifer, you referred earlier to the fact that we have so many different cultures and so many different communities here and events, especially in the summer, right? Like if you want to eat like Anthony Bourdain used to eat, just go to everything that Cleveland is hosting in the summer and you will be able to eat like Anthony Bourdain used to eat all over the world, right? So do you have anything to add that you want to just talk about Asiatown specifically?
Yeah, I will just say we actually have partnered very heavily with Asiatown. As a matter of fact, the event Corey referred to yesterday was at the Madison in Asiatown, and we had elements that we had the Kwan Family Lion Dance, we had Pacific Paradise Entertainment. We actually brought in a taste of the neighborhood to put in front of our 500 attendees, that they were able to literally get a taste from, I think there were 6 different restaurants and bakeries that were there, and really bringing those people, making that connection. So that's just one recent example within the last 24 hours that we really wanted to raise them up, and they do. And we try to go up to all the different neighborhoods, but that's just one example. But we've had a great relationship with them. We continue to build on that and promote what they have.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much, Marie. Thank you so much, Corey. I'm so grateful to see all of you. I wish I could give everybody a giant hug because I've missed your beautiful faces and your intelligent minds. And I also want to do thank you to all of our students, faculty, administration, everyone who has joined us here today, and to the overall bigger team at Destination Cleveland for making our city so awesome. Thank you again. I'm Alex Sequoy for Best in Biz here at Cleveland State University, Monte College of Business. Have a terrific day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Bye, everyone.